You know, we certainly allow any kind of substitutions and, little adjustments. The menus are not set in stone, so we can customize the menus to your taste. Like I said, we work off a food and beverage minimum. So to have the West Wing Terrace in the daytime on 11, 12, 13, my boss said if you spent $2,000 in food and beverage, it's yours for 5 hours. And then we do have a minimum ceremony fee of $200.
Okay.
And the first column, I just put all the money towards food and coffee, and it's the wedding cakes included in that. There's a champagne toast. So I do have a bartender fee because it's set up like a cash bar. But you could take any portion of that $2,000 and put it towards hosting some drinks or wine service with the meal, and that would count towards the $2,000. So it doesn't have to be all food. That's just the way I happen to set it up.
Okay.
So if you put some towards drinks instead, then there's no bartender fee. If you do a straight cash bar, then there's a bartender fee.
Okay.
So the first column is just for the West Wing Terrace, and so I have a bartender fee, and I have the ceremony fee, and then in the lower section of the page there's the service charge and the tax. And we're not trying to be confusing, but we have two service charges. We start off at the 27% service charge, but if all the deposits are paid on time, we like to have 90% paid off a month in advance, then we reduce it to 22% the day of. And that service charge covers a lot of little incidentals that people don't think about. It covers the linens, it covers like the people who do the carpet cleaning, and the kitchen staff gets a little banquet bonus, and our servers get a little banquet bonus, but they are allowed to be tipped above that if they provide you with exceptional service.
Okay.
That's what they dream about. And it covers like the planning and the tasting, things like that.
Okay.
It doesn't it's not 22% just as a tip. That they don't get 22%.
Okay.
They have to share it with me too.
Okay.
So your grand total is roughly $3,000.
Okay.
But that's also with a $100 bartender fee, and that's with the ceremony fee being $5 per person, minimum $200. Now, what I've often been able to do in the past is cut that in half as a military discount.
Okay.
So he's active duty military. We can probably get my boss to let me cut that in half.
Okay.
The second column is for the ballroom. So you could have the ballroom the same day, daytime, but you would need to spend more in food and beverage. So in the second column, I gave you a fancier meal for all the adults. The kids are still the same price because the kids aren't getting the fancy meal. No one's asking them if they want a child's portion of poached salmon or chicken cordon bleu. The kids, we do a fruit cup, and they get like chicken fingers and mac and cheese or something like that.
Okay.
So the adults are getting, I don't know, whatever it is on the $49 menu, soup, salad, a nice choices of 4 different dishes, and then the kids get the child's plate. I put money towards the bar in the second column, so there's no bartender fee. I put in like 2 to 3 drinks per person in the second column.
Okay.
You don't have to do that, but I was trying to spend more money. So I could have also gone with more expensive hors d'oeuvres. I could have gone with like the bacon wrapped shrimp and mini beef Wellingtons. I did add chocolate covered strawberries in the second column.
Okay.
A lot of times what we'll do with those is, well, besides have brides and bridesmaids eating them before the ceremony, is serve them with the cake. It looks really pretty for each piece of wedding cake to also have a chocolate covered strawberry, and that way you make sure each of your guests got one, as opposed to having them out with the hors d'oeuvres and somebody eats 4 of them.
Right.
Okay.
Not that anyone would ever do that. And so then there's no bartender fee in the second column. But in the second column, I also put some numbers in representing what you might spend for things like DJ, photography, flowers. It doesn't mean that is what you're going to spend. You might spend more, you might spend less, but just so when you're planning that you don't forget that flowers cost money. If you have a DJ, they charge.
Do you guys have a sound system here?
We have some speakers you can rent, but like in this room, we have built-in speakers. They play the music at an even volume all over the room. So if you wanted to dance, you'd want to have them rented and set up by the dance floor so that you could have people sitting over here talking and the music louder where people are dancing.
Okay.
And that's another advantage of this room, is it has a built-in dance floor.
Okay.
And in the other area, there isn't really a really good place to dance because they dance outside.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, some people spend next